Hey guys, let's start our call now. So the first agenda item is the implementation needs. Malakwan, is Derek with you?
No, it is not here. Maybe he'll join.
Okay, so maybe you can share with us about the implementation needs for this week and also the upcoming plan.
Okay. So for the major thing on our plate now is lack rollout. So we are thinking of maybe rolling out the soonest. So a couple of issues have arisen. First of all is the issue of cohorts. At least for me to finish setting up the devices, I have to know which cohorts to use to install on the devices. So I believe for the cohorts, Rotich will help us define the cohorts so that we can define cohorts for LAC. Also, another thing, I was to set up device management also on the devices that we are going to take to the field, but unfortunately, the SIM cards which LAC had purchased had expired. So Rotich is working on a way of renewing the SIM cards. So another thing I wanted to inquire from the team is for synchronization. So if we will be the one setting up the cohorts in the devices, what about updating the cohorts? Will the end user, the CW, be required to know how to synchronize the cohorts, or we'll have to go there periodically? Also for the images, I've uploaded all the devices
So
with
do you
the
want us to address, hey Malakwan, do
yes,
you want us
yes,
to address one each of them so that before we forgot the list that you
okay,
mentioned? Yeah.
sure, you can
Yeah,
go.
so let's just start with the first one first. The
Yes,
first one is about creating cohorts for the lack of mobile implementation, correct?
yes,
Yeah,
yes,
so there are 8 committee units for the LAG mobile ARM implementations, and my understanding is that they would like to have one cohort per committee unit. So there will be a total of 8 cohorts.
yes,
So the definition, correct me if I'm wrong, is anyone who have any encounter of the LAG linkage and retention form for the mobile arm for each of those committee units. It's committee unit specific. So that's pretty much. So let's just say that once they have a linkage or retention encounter within that particular CU, they should be enrolled in the cohort.
okay,
Is that the correct definition?
yes, I've gotten.
Okay,
So
so
basically
the
we'll have,
challenge right now is that
yes,
since no one has any lock, linkage, and retention encounter for the mobile arm, so the cohorts would be 0 for those,
okay,
correct? Because
yes,
if there's no data, we can, so there's no clients have satisfied that criteria.
yes,
Yeah, I think that's something that is good that you guys communicate with the team. However, at the same time, Simon and I are working on a schedule task to update those 8 cohorts on a weekly basis,
okay,
so that when they synchronize the information to the server, and then they can also get the updated list in case, let's say that within the same CU, they have multiple providers creating new client records, and those, let's say that like provider A created 5 and then provider B created another 6, a different 6 clients. And then after all this synchronization and after processing, ideally the cohort list would become 11 clients in the cohorts list.
okay.
Yeah.
add one question, please. Quick question. What about the synchronization now that you'll be updating the codes on a weekly basis?
So the the committee health worker, they would still need to do the weekly synchronization, just like the same thing that when they synchronize the data collection forms to the server, they should also include the fact that they should also update the cohort.
Okay.
Hey Lawrence, just FYI, in case you don't know, we can also see a video. I think you're probably in the field. So any more comments or questions on the cohort?
None from me, unless anybody in the team.
Okay.
Yes. Yes.
So let's go to the second item that you mentioned. I already forgot what's the second one. Sorry.
So unfortunately, for the SIM cards, we realized yesterday that they are expired. So we have to. Rotich is looking on a modality of renewing the SIM card, so that I set up. Normally, when we are setting up the device management, we require that each device has a SIM card, so that we tie that particular device to a particular end user in the field. So that Rotich will follow up on that.
So let me ask you, is it correct that all SIM cards are bad or just a few of them are bad?
No, since all the SIM cards were bought on the same time, all will require renewal.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, I see. Okay, so what's the third item?
No, I think I'm done from my side. Maybe if Derek was in, he could have updated us on the linkage and retention, the latest testing. Yes, he did.
Who should provide the update on the testing on the linkage and retention form?
Yes, so we had agreed with Derek, so he did the final testing on the changes that Swita had done, I think yesterday. Yes.
Yeah, I don't see Derek on the call. So maybe we can revisit this topic when he joins later.
Okay, okay. Yes.
So anyone have any more comments or questions on the implementation needs?
So another question, quick question, Eda.
Sure, go ahead.
mUzima test server. Now that that one is the one we are pointing out for training. I wanted to confirm that it is a replica of the production, so that next time we roll out, we go live at least.
Yeah, so this is a very good question. So on our agenda, maybe we can talk about, we can move Simon's item first, because one of the agenda item we have is testing on Go concept, location, and user in mUzima test server. So Simon just getting started on doing it because before that he did not have the correct access to the MRS production. That's why it's caused a little bit delayed. So Simon maybe, so the work plan is that Simon is going to get to go from MRS production, and then because with the user gold tables, it should not have any dependency problem, but now we are adding the location and users related table. So after the discussions, we suggested we should do staging of testing the dependency, just to make sure that we're not missing any major tables during this process. So the plan is that first, Simon just load the user concept goals related table to test server, and the next thing is about to move the locations and then the users. That's the plan. Simon, do you want to add anything?
And that's correct, Eda.
So this is the work plan for us.
Yes, actually, I've done the testing. I'll be able to shed more light on that, I think, when the time comes.
Okay, good. So I think what Wayne suggested was good because we want to make sure that we are not missing any related table because of the dependency. So it's good to do it by stages.
Yeah, sure. So just to ask a question,
go
as
ahead.
I've what my colleague is saying. So does it mean that they are going to configure the devices for the training, which will be pointing to mUzima server, and then after that training, they will reconfigure the devices to point to production server?
Correct.
Okay.
So actually, my concern is about exposing the user the real user information on the mUzima test server. That's really my main concern. So maybe we need to set up maybe a couple so that not everyone logged into the mUzima test server have the admin rights. I think that's something that we need to think about.
Yeah, sure. I've done the testing. I think I'll explain, but so far the tables we hope to move to the test server will include user records, and therefore users should be able to log in using the accounts that were set up.
Yeah. So right now the current setting in the test server is like admin test to log in. So I think we probably need once the user table loaded to the mUzima test server is no longer valid. So maybe before we do that, do we need to create more like a dummy user account or something like that, just for for other people rather than mPath implementation in case that they're interested in doing testing, just so that this way they can still log into the mUzima test server for whatever purpose they need as the provider.
Oh, I see your point. Yeah, probably we may want to create a user, maybe a user with admin rights, so that they can use it whenever they want to access different areas of the system.
Yeah, but I really don't want someone to have like system administrator privilege so that they can change our settings. That's really I don't want.
Okay.
But then I just want to have like a test provider account because that's what most people would use for testing. Because I try to avoid people just out of curiosity go to our test server and make all these changes, and then when we roll out for testings, and then we run into a bunch of issues because metadata has been changed. That's really what I try to avoid. Now, maybe another option is that we should even have two test servers. One is for mPath implementation needs, and then another one is for just like the current settings for anyone who can use it. So, hey, Win, is it possible to do it in Linux with our own with our current plan to have like two test servers?
Probably not either.
So we probably need to pay more.
Yeah.
Okay. So anyone have any suggestion how we can best deal with this situation?
I think we can use mPath test server, right?
Yeah, I think that's a good one.
Yeah, isn't it available?
But the mPath test server has been used for so many different things for testing, so it would be best to have mUzima, mPath version of mUzima test server. You know what I mean? So that we don't need to worry about all these changes, and then someone go make changes, and then we are not aware of it, and we end up spending a lot of time in trying to figure out why things not work the way that it's supposed to be. That's really what I try to avoid.
I think rather than doing that, we should have the probably have the AMPA test server refresh every, I don't know, 2 weeks. So it will. So you download the I don't know, whatever production, and then anonymize it, and then you load it to the test server, and you hold this anonymized data. I don't know, like SQL script, like all the module settings, and then every 2 weeks or every month you would reload it again, so you will have
the same content.
Yeah, the same content again every month. So even though you load some data into it, as soon as you refresh it, everything will be back to the original content.
Yeah, and one challenge is that I know there's not enough public IP assigned. So the Enterprise test server right now is like internal IP. That's my understanding. So if we ask for one for discount purposes, and we need to have a public IP.
You can always do tunneling if you want. You can set up your Android to have SSH tunneling, and then all your connection will go through SSH server. I think there is a possibility to do that.
So let's just list out a few options that we just, I'm going to summarize those few options that we discussed.
Yeah. Okay.
And then we can circulate and then decide which route we should pursue. How about that?
Yeah.
So, anyone have more comments or suggestions about the test server, mUzima test server? Okay. So if not, we'll go back to the second agenda item. I know that we skipped a couple of them. So let's go back to the discussions on resolving error QUI. So thanks, Lawrence, for drafting the features and expected, behavior for the UI. I don't know if anyone got a chance to look at the attachment we sent yesterday. So it's just FYI, this is more like an initial draft, so we welcome any feedback or suggestions. Oops. Lawrence, in case you're talking, you are on mute.
No, I didn't say anything. I was just waiting for comments from maybe any other person who got to see the document, maybe the draft.
So let's just go through your comments one by one. Would that be okay? I think probably it's good for us to understand what the implication of them. The first one is say have a button at the top that could allow multiple selected forms on error queue to be processed one. So I think this, I'm not sure what I understand this one.
Okay, you see, like if we have a, let me just get into the test server. So the first, we have the first column, which should be, is that the form number or something? Let me just get there. So you see, the way we have the option of selecting, like if I was proposing that we introduce a column that's going to have checkboxes against each error queue, each form on the error queue. So like above that, we should have one checkbox that would probably allow you to multi-select.
So let's say
Like,
that it has the feature to allow you to select more than one message.
yes.
So what is the next step? Because I think we need to triage the message one by one because they all are unique.
Yes, they are unique. So the reason behind this was I was looking at a possibility where if for instance I'm resolving, assuming I have 5 forms on the error queue, and 3 of them are probably dispensary forms that all have provider ID related issues. So I'm looking at it in 2 ways: possibility of resolving them and throwing them back to the queue immediately, or just resolving them and probably have the color on the error queue change. So that way I can have like 3 of them resolved and sitting on the error queue. So that way I can select the 3 forms, or maybe all that I've resolved, and then just do a multi-select and throw them to the error queue using the button that I proposed somewhere down on that list. I don't know if that's a practical approach to that.
So my thought is that we group, we can filter out the error messages by different, filters, and then so that you can work on a set of errors which have common type of errors.
Yes.
And then you will triage and fix those one by one. One is fixed.
Okay.
Actually, Win and I chatted last night as well. So one is fixed. I prefer that it has an immediate check to see whether it even passed before it put in the queue, instead of like, someone made some changes without the validations and then it put back to the queue. Because my concern is that this is still kind of new for everyone, and sometimes when you have the good intention on fixing the error, but sometimes things happen. You might end up have a typo here or there that create even more issues. And then if you throw back to the error, to the queue for processing, and it will take time for you to come back. There's a lag time between that you by the time you find out, and then you was like, oh, why? I swear I fixed this message, and then it come back again saying that it's wrong, something really wrong with the processor, things like that. I just try to avoid that kind of speculation.
Okay.
So my thought is that it would be good that on the individual message level, when you fix those errors, it goes through like a validation to make sure nothing looks suspicious, and then it can go back to put in the queue for processing.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I don't know what other people think. And when do you want to mention to share with the team about the step-by-step making changes of the UI that we talked about last night, about like formatting the JSON message and then elements, and then also using regular text area versus text field, things like that.
I think I think for the first pass, to make to allow everyone to update the form data itself, I think for the first pass, we should have just a simple way to edit the payload of the form. So you will have a button uh, to edit the payload, and then this one will just bring up a text field, text area for the JSON. So instead of displaying like text right now, it will display text area with the JSON, and then you will be able to manually edit the JSON and then have another button to try processing this with the processor and see if the processor will throw an exception or not. I think there's a few changes that we need to do in the processor, and then for the UI itself, for a first pass kind of thing, we can just allow manual edit. That way we can just fix the JSON payload as needed for the form data in the error queue. I think on the subsequent fix, we can start be more specific about the update, like pointing out, oh, this field is incorrect, and then you can just edit for that specific field only. But I think if we directly go to this path, I think it's going to take more time, and we ended up with more error queue and more data in the error queue.
So basically, it's like on the current UI, there's a button. Let me just display this page. So pretty much this is the UI of the current error queue data. So let's just use the first one as a sample. Once you click on, looking at the, the whole error message, the whole message. So maybe somewhere here that we have a button like edit, and then once the edit button is click, and then maybe on the bottom it will become a. Do you want to change this message box to be an editable field, or it should have another editing box below it, so that it can also reference back to the original message?
I'm fine either way, but I think
Prefer the later, actually.
Yeah, I don't have preference data, but I think just make sure before we edit this, the first pass is reformat the JSON to make it readable. Number two, the quick edit approach, where you can just edit the entire JSON payload with the text area, and then afterward we can become fancy with all the field specific.
Highlighter, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my preference is to have another editable text area after the edit button is clicked. The reason is that sometimes people when they make changes and they forgot what the original message looks like, what to compare to, in case they forgot what they did or get distracted.
I'm fine with that later.
Okay. What do other people think?
Yeah, that sounds good. Just, I don't know. I think from the last call we had proposed to have like once we have this form displayed, I don't know if Win's approach right now allows us to be able to view all the errors on that particular form. Because if that's the case, I was thinking just the same way we have the error message appearing just above the form details, which says unable to process queue data due to whatever error that is. Is it possible to have the listing of all the errors captured on that particular form, just as a point of reference, so that you know if you're tackling provider ID location, you pay attention to that list above the editable text field?
Yes, I think it should be doable, Lawrence.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it should be doable. I think it's a good approach as well, so we can just have a look at like the general error that we have, so we can see what's going on, why the processor cannot process this form data.
Okay.
Yeah, I think, but for now, I think because of the limitation of the table, we probably need to expand the table in the future. But I think for now, I think it's just gonna be like just regular tax error.
Okay.
I think, yeah.
So
Cool.
So do we all agree the first pass is to work on the processors instead of just throwing one error, list out all the errors on the JSON. And then number 2, to reformat editable JSON format. And then add like edit buttons and to display like a text area at the bottom so that users can make changes accordingly. Also, that it needs to revise. There's some work on the processes as well for throwing in an exception, just like a validation check, before it go to the form queue. Do you guys think this is a okay plan for the first pass?
I think to me that should be okay.
And then when we prove that it works properly, and then when we have enough resources, we can make it more readable on on the UI. So this is only for the error queue. How about the registration message?
I didn't look at the registration bit in detail.
Okay. Yeah, so just reference to those we talked about last week, especially the merge patient UI, just maybe something you can reference to give you some idea. But I just wonder if other members have any thoughts on that, so that before Lawrence put in efforts to work on the documentation or mockup.
I think the registration would work the same way because both forms, the encounters and registration, would go through the queuing process and they would go to the error queue. So I believe, therefore, the implementation would have them both work the same way. And then, again, I wanted to ask, maybe when we allow the users to edit the payload, so would you want maybe to keep the old payload in record? Maybe just in case somebody wants to go back to the original payload.
Yeah. I would prefer that, but I don't know how it's possible right now in the current tables.
maybe that would require to expand the table, have some field where we store the old payload, I think.
So maybe one table to archive all the original messages. And then another table for edited message before processing. Is it what you refer to, Simon?
Yeah. Okay, I know there's a way we archive. I haven't looked at that, the payload, but what I meant, because now after processing we archive the payload that was submitted from the mobile side, but now after editing, maybe we would want to keep the payload on record, and then after some edits, maybe somebody would want to look at the previous the payload that was sent from the phone, and maybe go back to it in case users erroneously alter the payload. Yeah.
So Win, do you know how it works in form entry? I don't even know.
Doesn't keep any historical record like that. So if you update, you only have the latest one.
So maybe we can document this is the limitation for now. Would that be appropriate?
Why do we need to do that? I don't understand.
So Simon's point is that in case someone edited, let's say that it's supposed to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 as the ID, but then he put, a different set of number for the ID. But then later on they realize that actually it's wrong or something like that. It's just like something to reference to the original message, I guess.
If it's wrong, then we can change it through the OpenMRS UI, right?
Say one more time.
If the data, I mean, as soon as you have your data processed, it becomes whatever record inside OpenMRS. So if you need,
I see both points. I think Simon's point is more like, hey, it needs to have the original message archived just in case, like, when you think about like remote form entry, so they bring in the return data, and then when they process, they throw in a bunch of problems. So and they go back to the original, remote form entry return data, and then just do some programmatic fixes in case someone really fixed something wrong. They still have the original message that they can work on or something like that. But then your point is more like, hey, this is already in the meta record, and how is it different of updating someone's birthday because it was collected incorrectly in the first place?
Yeah, so, I mean, I don't know.
I see both sides, actually. So whether we want to look at it as like, as a batch of messages, have them archived somewhere, or versus of, ongoing, data quality process that, we've found issues here and then just fix it.
Yeah, but the thing is, as soon as you process it, it's going to be difficult for you to actually remove it unless you completely remove everything. Like, you're not going to reprocess the form data again, right? Most likely you will just edit your record in the OpenMRS.
So I think we can avoid this part by having the processor to throw in any exceptions before it, after the editing, and then before it throw back to the process queue. If we have that, we just treat it as a regular record, data change, in case something needs to be fixed. That's how I see it.
Yeah, I think I agree, because actually Win is right. Once the data is successfully processed, then we no longer need to to go back to the payload. So maybe my suggestion would only apply before successful processing.
Yeah.
If our user has to edit the payload multiple times, but after processing, then we don't need that actually.
Yeah, I think by having the processor to throw in an exception before, after editing and then before throwing the queue, that already avoid that part. So, it took care of your concerns, and I think. Those are good points. So just to go back to the original questions about, the way we need the UI, for the registration queue. It actually is a little bit different from handling the error queue, Simon, because any of those message listed on this page, they already passed all those exceptions, like they have no exception problems. So what it really means is that whether this is a true new record or it should be merged with existing record. Just because maybe the names is a little bit spelling different, but actually belong to the same client, things like that. So we still need to have a different UI for triaging the registration record. I hope it makes sense, Simon.
Yeah. So does it mean by trashing so that at this point when we have entries on this list, it means the patients have already completely registered in the system. If you try to search the patient through whichever other means, you'll still find them. So does it mean?
No, I don't think so. So what happened is that, let's say that I'm just using my record as an example, like number 5. I just create for testing, it's just easier. So because when I search on my local repo on my device, I don't find my, my name, this record. And then when I search from the system, there's no such record as well. However, you need to keep in mind that we're using the simple search algorithm, just based on name, gender, birthday, and also identifiers. So if there's any, as you know, the same client can have multiple identifiers, and then sometimes people might spell my name Y-O-U-N-G, Y-O-N-G, whatever, So when doing this simple match algorithm, and then the system will say that, hey, it looks like it's a new record, but actually maybe it already exists in the system. However, when all these records on this page, they don't have they don't have a permanent record in the system yet. This is just temporary record.
So you mean if you go to find create patients and you search maybe for a patient with the name Ada?
You can only find it on your device, but not on the system yet, right, Ring?
I think we can find it.
No, this is already in the system, Ada.
But how about like for another device to search?
What do you mean? Lou? Ada?
Sorry, I was on mute. We assigned the temporary UUID, correct?
Yeah, in the device we assign the temporary UUID, and then as soon as the processing complete, then it will try to match it with whatever assigned UUID generated in the server.
So all these records are now as a new record in the system?
Yes.
So what if I thought that we're supposed to have a many process of reviewing them and merge them.
This one it's already past the simple validation. Do you want to do the manual review again?
Yeah, so what is the point of keeping the whole list on here then?
This one is used to decide, because as soon as you create, so for the registration, you assign the temporary UUID. And then in the encounter form for your temporary patient, it will refer the user using the temporary UUID. So we need to keep the temporary UUID mapped to the assigned UUID. Assigned UUID is the real UUID in OpenMRS. And then so for every new encounter, if you create the new encounter using your temporary patient, which means your encounter form will use the temporary UUID instead of the real UUID, this one will be used to resolve the real patient in the system.
So all the records on this page, it's kind of like just as a reference key, is what you're trying to say? In case that temporary UID is being used for the form?
Yes.
So actually there's no action need to be taken on this UI.
Yeah.
So I think it just based on the simple search. So we don't actually need to do anything with the patient merge then.
Yeah, if you have issue with your registration form, then it will go to the error queue. I think that's
correct. Yeah.
That's the unclear about the process. I think as soon as I think if we want to prevent duplicate, we should update the simple search to be more sensitive when finding duplicate patients.
So Eda, from my understanding here, by the time, assuming we have we registered 1,000 patients in the field, the view registration page is gonna have 1,000 patients.
Yes.
Since there's nothing, okay, so.
Yeah.
No, but you know, not necessarily 1,000, right? What if what if the simple merge find the record in the system, so it should be less than 1,000, right? For those cases.
No,
would they still show up here? Would they still show up here, Wayne?
It will show up here because the temporary UUID will be different. So
we need to. So is it correct that when the temporary UID and assigned ID are different, and then we know that actually there's a record already exists in the system? Would that be the right assumption?
Not necessarily. It could be the same, I think.
So I think we need some kind of distinguish, to distinguish here, because like it's unclear. Let's say that how many new clients that through mUzima we create a new record. Let's say that in the system. We would not be able to tell, would we?
You can, I think, using this table.
So how can you tell? Let's say that, because I think you guys are talking about any of the new records created through mUzima will be listed here. However, even though it includes for those records has been merged with existing record.
I'm confused. So the idea of this table is, so you create a temporary patient, you generate a temporary UUID, and then the registration form process it. If it find the patient for that one, it will create this temporary UUID mapped to this assigned UUID. So for every patient that you create, because the temporary UUID is going to be different.
So I thought that that's how it works. Maybe you can correct me. So on the device, it would, when you create a new record, a client record, it would assign a temporary UUID for this person, and then that's what the temporary UUID column here listed.
Yes.
And then once it's sent to the server for processing through the simple merge, let's say that it found an existing record. So the assigned ID should be the UUID from the system, so which is different from the temporary UUID listed on here, no?
It could be the same, it could be different.
Wow.
Because
so maybe we
Go ahead.
Probably what you mean is like once a patient is created on the device side, they will, for the entire lifespan, run on the temporary UUID, and all encounters captured through the temporary UUID and submitted. So once it gets here, it's paired up to the assigned UUID, which could be the same or different depending on whether they exist or not, and then how the encounter is processed. I don't know if I'm getting that right.
It's close now, I think. So
Okay.
yeah, I think you're right about the temporary UUID, and the encounter is going to have the temporary UUID if you create it using the temporary patient record. So what we need to do, what this table showing is the mapping from the temporary UUID to the real UUID of the patient in the server. The thing is, this one is showing the same all the time because
They are brand new to the system at the time when they create it.
no, I think the processor, I think, is when creating the patient in the server side, it used the temporary UUID. So when you register a patient, I think we should update the registration handler to remove the UUID from the temporary patient, and then allow OpenMRS to generate the UUID. Yeah, I think that's what it is. So most of the time it's going to be different with the temporary UUID and the assigned UUID. But the assigned UUID will have duplicate between this row because a few temporary patient could be mapped to a single patient.
Mhm. Yeah, and then I agree with that.
Yeah.
So that's really what that's why I got confused here when because I don't believe like the temporary UID is always the same as UID, assigned UID, especially for those cases that you know is new is created as new from the device, but actually it already exists in the system. Because I thought that you mentioned that once they find the simple match, the temporary ID would be replaced by the assigned UID, no?
No.
So you keep the temporary UID, pretty much throughout.
Yeah.
So you keep this as can I call it like a key mapping? Right?
Yeah, it's a mapping from the temporary patient to the real patient.
But let's say that for these 5 cases, why they are the same? Is it because they are true cases not exist in the system, so that OpenMS just use the temporary UUID as the OpenMS UUID?
I think this one is because when the registration handler create the patient, the UUID field is already assigned to a value. So OpenMRS doesn't generate new UUID if the UUID is already pre-filled before you save the patient.
So in which scenario that the temporary UID and assigned UID would be different?
It's always going to be different, most likely.
No, yes.
Because the temporary UUID is generated by the device and the OpenMRS UUID is generated by the server.
Yeah, but why they're the same here then if you say like they're usually different?
The handler have a bug, I think.
Okay, now I understand.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what my assumption is that they should be different.
Yeah.
Okay, I see. Okay, got it.
Yep, I see it. Why it is.
Then I agree with you because like I don't think they should be the same.
Yeah. Yeah, we should remove this line of code. If you open that link, you will see that.
Which, just one of this.
No, the one I put in the chat.
I'm sorry, Vincent.
Do you see it in the chat?
Yeah, actually now let me just display. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so the unsafe patient is assigned with the patient UUID coming from the device. That way, OpenMRS doesn't. It's not going to be bothered to generate a different UUID. Yeah, it's a bug.
Okay. Then we are on the same page. Good.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just didn't understand.
Cool.
Awesome. So let's see. Then it makes things less complicated on the registration page. Then pretty much just need to fix that line of code or remove it. And we don't need to worry about the UI of merging the two records then.
Yeah.
As long as we're using the simple approach. But then later on, if we want to use something more sophisticated, we'll need to worry about those.
Yeah.
Okie dokie. So I think that's good. And then, so I think we run out of time. I know that, there's a lot of question about the versioning on the mUzima form versioning mechanism. And I circulate the PDF file. We discussed those options or approaches through Scrum or through the call as well. I just want us to make a decision on which route we go. Can you guys please comment on the wiki page or through the listserv so that we can get a final consensus? This will be a to-do for everyone this week.
Yeah. Do we have a ticket for that, Ada? For the
no, it's a wiki page
No.
because we don't want to create a ticket without knowing which approach to use.
Yeah. About the changes for the UI for the.
Oh, for the resolution, resolving the error?
Yeah.
And not yet because we want to go through this call and then also a mock-up before we create the ticket. I think now I have enough information that I think I'll go ahead to do maybe the first mock-up, and then you guys can comment on the mock-up before creating a related tickets. I think that would be less confusion on
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
I just don't want to spend so much time on the clarifying on each ticket, but then they're kind of dependent on the other one, and then it creates more confusion.
Yeah. Cool, man.
Okie dokie. And I think, let me see. That's it for me. Just want to remind everyone we have new call time for the Scrum starting next week. It's going to start at 7:45 a.m. Eastern time, and then the same time for folks from Kenya and then India. However, for the Friday call, it'll be 1 hour earlier than the the current time for our team member from India and Kenya. It'll be like 2 p.m. Kenya time, but then it's the same time for us in the US time. So just want to remind everyone. Any other topics to discuss before we say bye?
Nothing from me.
I talk a lot. You too, Win. Just FYI, we're not arguing. That's how we discuss.
Yeah, We're just mad at each other.
It's good to debate. So it's good.
I think I'll just send a mail with the list of tables I've identified we can use on our server in production.
Okay. Cool. We'll respond.
Hey, Ada, this is Shweta. Sorry, I've been kind of quiet because I'm not in a place where I can talk. It's kind of noisy.
Okay. Oh, sorry about that.
So actually, I just wanted to just talk about the LARC forms, and I had a call with Rotich yesterday, and I just wanted to just I'm not sure if anyone from the LARC team is on this call, but just to let you guys know that I think I finished the final comments, and I was just wondering if I know Rotich was saying that they're planning on rolling out sometime next week. So just wanted to just let them know that that they have to test again when they. So
yeah. Hey, do you know is Wickes available today, or maybe because I know that he makes some changes on the custom form, but I think I saw that he probably misunderstood what we talk about for the donuts and the refuse options. So
actually, because isn't here on the call today, it's just me. But I will let him know. I'll probably just like call him or something, and I'll let him know. Would it be possible that you just leave a comment on the Jira or send him an email so he'll be able to follow up with whatever changes you want him to do?
Yeah, it's pretty much the same thing, but then it just happened multiple times because that two options like happen many times. So maybe I can just point out a few examples and then pretty much the same throughout. Yeah.
Cool. I will let him know.
Cool. Anyone have any more comments, questions?
Ada, there was that request I had on the dispensary form. I don't know if you can make time.
Sure. Do you want to ping me after the call, Lawrence?
Sure.
Okay, sounds good. Just send me the dispensary form that you have questions, and then we can pick it up.
All right.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a good weekend.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Have a good weekend, everyone.